The GTA Definitive Editions are garbage. I've been saying this for 3 years, but after this long and despite me making 4 videos listing 404 problems with the trilogy, some of you are still not convinced. Well, I have 101 more problems for you and the list can keep growing forever. Let's begin. While approaching this helicopter in the San Fierro hospital, you may not notice anything weird, but upon closer inspection, you'll see how this is not only one heli. In many locations in San Andreas, vehicles spawn into each other and pushing them reveals more and more until the game crashes. After entering a cheat, a text appears telling you that you won't get achievements for cheating. This text appears every single time you load a new save game. People who use cheats get a useless and annoying message every single time they wanna play. This cannot be turned off. This rock in the San Fierro golf course is split open in half. There's a gap on the bottom of it. Do you see this fence in Las Venturas? Well, doesn't matter because the fence is fake. It does not actually exist and you can walk through it. GTA 3 has a great landmark in the form of a lighthouse. Well, they somehow broke this inaccessible area by misaligning the wall, the stairs and the mountain as a whole. Now you can see gaps underneath. Similarly to the fence we saw before, this tree in Las Venturas does not exist and you can just drive through it whenever you please. This sign in Spanish should mean car insurance, however in the Definitive Edition it's misspelled. Instead of seguros, it should be seguros, with a G. Leaving it as is means nothing. When committing crimes in Vice City, a police dispatcher will give you information on what crime you commit, where you are, what car you're driving and so on. Well, in the Definitive Edition the dispatcher will sometimes talk for minutes straight. It will never shut up.
Don't make me angry.
What do you think? Does this container exist? Well, let me find out. Oh, it doesn't. Nope, wrong. It does exist, but it's not placed properly. You can climb on an invisible container, while the original one you can walk through. Did you guys know that in San Andreas we have a minigame called Duality where you play as a spaceship and we need to collect and shoot little white, black and white balls? Depending on which balls you go for, your points will display in the corresponding color. The problem occurs if you're going for black. If you do, you'll not be able to see your score. This is because the white outline was removed in the Definitive. In the original, every score is completely visible. We have a road above us, which unfortunately is wide open. We can see the sky, the floating grass, pedestrians and so much more. This clearly should not be here, but it is. These bushes in Los Santos should be solid, dividing both roads so you don't accidentally go over and cause an accident. You could defend this bug by saying, oh, it's bushes, and that is normal for people to go through. Alright, sure, I'll bite. Can you tell me though, how the hell can you go through this tree? Huh? Case closed. This whole section is broken and does not work as intended. In Los Santos you occasionally find billboards with missing textures. This is fine. In real life they get replaced and until a new picture gets on it, it will stay empty. There's no excuse for this, however. More than half the billboard is missing and I have no idea why. It's completely fine in the OG. Many of the broken, wrecked cars you find in Los Santos are actually floating. This is the most floaty one I could find. The cheat in Vice City called I Want It Painted Black turns all newly spawned traffic black. I mean, of course it does, it's in the name. The same exact cheat with the same exact name in the Definitive Edition, however, turns them lime, not black. This makes absolutely no sense considering how black is in the name. In Las Venturas we can find a lamppost which should not be this high. This is ridiculous. I understand moving it a meter in a direction, but higher? And by this much? This is higher than the people playing this garbage for fun. In the OG you can spray tags through a solid wall, helping you out during speedruns. In the Definitive Edition this is not possible and you gotta waste time jumping over this fence. These ramps in Los Santos Airport should be transparent, but for some reason they are not anymore. I thought this was the definitive edition and there should be improvements, not downgrades. In San Fierro here we can see a normal fence, right? Nope, it's not so normal when you get close because you can walk into it and it could consume you. There should be a parking lot here in Los Santos, but it's replaced by grass. This will be fine, I guess, it's a change, but cars actually still spawn here like it's a normal parking lot. At least when you're gonna make a change, make a full change, not half-ass it like you did with the billboard close by. Wires in San Andreas are very weird in the definitive. They are never this fat, but in this particular spot in the countryside they are enormous. Right next to Tommy's mansion, when it's raining, you notice how water droplets don't land on the ground, but in the air. It's like the walkable surface extends past this motto, but it doesn't. You cannot walk on this spot, only droplets form. Weird. If there's a sandstorm happening in San Andreas, then make sure not to enter any of your hangars because you'll be met by this. What is this even? It looks like an Oblivion gate, but different. Ugh. Similar to a previous bush, this one in Los Santos should have a motto, not just a texture. Well, the definitive disagrees because you can walk through it. In the OG, this container is closed off and you cannot access it. The same applies for the definitive, only this time one of the sides is invisible. Alright, what am I looking at here? This is all sorts of messed up. You can even see the tree extending very far deep into the void. There are some places on the map of GTA 3 where you can use a tow vehicle and the camera changes to first person. This is done so you can see. This is fine. What's not fine is, since the tanks cannot move with your mouse, and you can't move your mouse under these buildings, you'll be forced to shoot forward and not to the sides. This is not a problem in the OG since you can lock your cannon in a direction. Speaking of the OG, in it you can swim fast by pressing shift. In the defective edition you gotta press shift and W at the same time. W is completely redundant and not necessary, but you gotta use it. Unlike San Andreas, in GTA 3 these light poles are buried in the ground. At least they're not floating this time, which is a bit better, but this is still incorrect. They should have a bigger base. On the topic of light poles, in San Andreas when you drive over them, they'll not break. Or will they? They're kinda broken and kinda not, because you can drive through them despite them visibly being intact. The definitive edition sickness consumed CJ, and now his fingers got broken. Maybe he got angry by playing this garbage and broke them after beating up his controller or something, I have no idea. How did they miss this massive hole? I have no idea. This little fence does not even cover it up. Nobody drove past this section while testing. This is ridiculous. After entering a cheat, the cheat activated text appears, followed by weather cheat for instance, making the first text redundant. Add a third box which says you won't get achievements, and it takes a while for all these three boxes to disappear when all that's needed was one box telling you which cheat you activated, and that's it. While searching for the definitive editions in this dumpster, you know, since it belongs here, CJ found out that you can phase through this dumpster. Trash can, bitch. In Las Venturas we have the same issue, but with this bin and a dumpster. Both are broken. In Vice City the minigun stays detached from the actual gun. It will stay in place while the weapon spins around. CJ's chain goes through his body if he's muscular or fat. To be fair, it does it still in the original too, but it's not as bad as it is here. Close to the arena in Stoughton, this ground is broken up and improperly stitched together. Some of these textures are also really ugly. They broke the waterfall transparency here in Las Venturas. This just does not look right. The water on the bottom should not be rendered over top the waterfall, and CJ should not be this visible. Wires are so inconsistent in this game. No wire in San Andreas is completely solid, unless we're talking about this one. This specific wire. Yeah, you can actually stand on them. I dare you to find a different wire in San Andreas which does the same. They took this entire bridge and moved it a few pixels higher. Why? Look at how close it is to connecting. Now it has a massive hole in the ground. They broke this bridge too, but in a different way. This one's unique problem is lighting. At night time part of it is very bright, while the other one is dark. And no, it's not because lights are on. There are no lights on this bridge. Alright, let's get GTA 3 here with a broken bridge as well. This one is not connected to the mountains. It could tip over at any moment. In Vice City on the weapon wheel there's one slot missing. Instead of expanding each window and making each block contain a weapon, they left one empty. It will never be filled up. There's an interesting sign here up on the mountains. Why interesting? Because it's a ghost sign. It's only here in spirit. In the OG version, when you damage a car, white smoke appears, followed by black smoke if it's too damaged. In the Definitive Edition there's no smoke at all. If you do manage to see some smoke, it will be one color not telling you how damaged the car actually is, so you can prepare to evacuate it. Colombian cartel members in GTA 3 cannot hold weapons properly. This is a problem with NPCs in general, but these guys take the cake. This dock is floating and you can see through it. Still in the desert you can sink into this rock. If it was sand, sure, fine, but it should be a solid rock, which it's not. In Zero's final mission New Model Army, you gotta pick up stuff and drop them on the track. You do this several times throughout the mission and you use the button R. To cancel the mission, however, you press the button right next to it, which is T. Once you press it, there's no confirmation. You could have been playing for 7 minutes and poof! Because of fat fingering a button, you could fail, and no, you cannot rebind it. Yeah, have fun failing this mission several times like I did in my last playthrough. There's a dock in Vice City which is see-through as well. CJ uses a fire extinguisher in a very unnatural way. What is he even holding? His hopes and dreams of this being an actual good remaster, that's what. The giant sphinx in Las Venturas has his head cut off. No joke, do you see the gap? Yeah, the head is detached. It should not be like this. The top-down camera has been a staple of the GTA franchise since the first game. Even the original GTA 3 had it. Well, for whatever reason, it's now gone in the Definitive. This giant beam holding the billboard is completely solid and massive, as it should be in the original. In the Definitive, a side of it is missing. This tiny thing firstly cannot hold a billboard, and secondly it looks unfinished. There should be a ladder on it. All these pillars next to the Four Dragons Casino have a different problem, they don't actually exist. These are new additions to the Definitive, and they do look nice, but come on, at least when you start a job, finish it. These wires are floating and don't properly connect to the pillar. This ship in Vice City is cursed, you can actually walk in the air right behind it. The Definitive Edition added useless vending machines around the map. You could go, oh, but CJ doesn't like cola, and that's why he won't use this machine. But look closely, it sells Sprunk, and CJ has no problem buying Sprunk from other vending machines, so he should be able to use this one too. We have a fake tree in Los Santos. CJ has been pranked, it's not actually here. I'm not sure what to call this, it's not a hole in the void, but it's weird and out of place. It stretches throughout this whole mountain. This wall in Shoreside Vale is completely borked. There's a lot of fuzzy floating grass and this terrible texture which looks worse than the original GTA 3's textures. Yet another hole in the ground. This one is not as big as the other ones, but it's very noticeable and should not exist. Each stat category has its own stat menu, making it easier to select what you want. In the Definitive it's all jumbled up into one page, and if you wanna go to a particular stat, you gotta scroll through all this crap each time you wanna check something. This ground in Shoreside is all kinds of messed up, weird colors, holes, smudgy textures, incorrect placement and so on. There's a character in Vice City called Candy Sucks. She even has a billboard in San Andreas. Well, in the Definitive you can find this little advertisement saying Cindy Sucks. This clearly should be Candy, but the AI upscaler did it dirty. This trailer's model is misaligned and you can walk in the air. On this disco wall you can see a woman with her mouth which is morphed. She looks weird and stretched. On the back of the iconic army base in GTA 3, the ground has a hole and you can see water through it. Imagine getting your foot stuck here. Nobody would ever find you. In the mission Reuniting Families, during the last shootout in the car, if you increase your AK skill, which you're guaranteed to do, you detach from the AK and it will float in the air. It now looks like an automated turret. This wall was moved by a few centimeters. It's not where it should be because there's a gap and the void is poking through. There's a big wheel cheat in Vice City. Each time you type it, it should change the wheel size. In the definitive, typing it a second time does nothing. If you want to see the wheels change, you need to exit out of the vehicle so they can refresh. There should be a fence here. How do I know? Well, because it's actually here, but you can't see it. Good job, devs, you broke it. You, along with pedestrians, can sink into the ground in Los Santos. Sure, it looks hilarious now, but your car randomly flipping because you fell into an invisible hole is not a fun time. I don't think so, at least. When CJ uses the elliptical machine at the gym, he's not actually holding the handlebars and looks funny. This tree found in the cartel mansion goes through a fence. These branches should not be there. There's a set of electrical wires which are placed completely randomly here in Los Santos. This is because there's no pole at all anywhere and not a single wire connected to anything. This is the biggest issue of this kind I found, and I am baffled at how this is still in the game. This tree is only half walkable and the other half is not. You fall through. Congrats on leaving the half job finished. Again. In the original San Andreas, if you auto-aim, you can press a button to quickly switch targets. In the definitive, to switch targets you gotta disable your aim and aim again to select somebody else. This grass in Staten Island is cut in half and you can see the void underneath. For whatever reason, on this exact spot a Sanchez will occasionally be left with no NPCs driving it. This happens very often and I have no explanation for it. This never happens in the original. This trailer was raised in the sky a bit, or the sand was lowered. It should not be floating, but it is. There's a pretty significant gap here between the grass and the concrete. The boogeyman might be watching from below. Ooh. If you visit the Salvatore mansion in Portland and look at your minimap, you'll notice how your position on it is incorrect. I should be on the dirt road, but on the minimap I am not. I found a second container which you can walk through. This should not happen. After finishing the mission Stowaway in San Andreas, you jump off a plane. This looks spectacular and it's very memorable. Well, the Definitive Edition broke the entire cutscene. Firstly, the sky looks weird. Is that the planet? Am I in space? Secondly, you get this lengthy black screen, and when the game puts you back in, you are very close to the ground. This cutscene and the mission as a whole is completely broken. What's up with piers and docks in every game having gaps and not connecting to land? Well, here's one in Vice City so it doesn't feel left out. Enjoy! If you visit the police station in Dillimore, enter this room and look at the clock, you'll see how its hands are missing, so it's completely useless. This clock is the Definitive Edition of clocks. Useless and broken. The top of this industrial plant part, I'm guessing you call it a chimney, has a texture which should not be here because you can simply go through it. When aiming with a weapon which puts you in first person like a sniper or an RPG for instance, no matter what, you cannot move. In the OG you can move around no problem. Grass is growing in this garage. This happens in real life, sure, but I see no cracks in the concrete, so this should not be possible. The checkered flag icon in these coronas, which signifies that this is the last checkpoint, is not placed on the bottom where you can see it, it's placed very high up instead. This is how it should look like. This desert bridge is not properly connected to land and there's a gap. After breaking a fire hydrant in San Andreas, it does not fall over but stays there and you can drive through it. Behind the Portland hospital is a hole which should not be there, it should be solid concrete. In the Los Santos garage where the energy is located, if you enter the bike and move your camera upwards, it clips through the floor and you cannot see your bike anymore. This casino's motto is gone, you face through the whole thing. These stairs don't act like stairs and are completely broken. Here's me struggling to use them. but I fail every few steps I take. Similar to different wires in Los Santos, these ones don't connect to a pole, they'll just float in the air like they just don't care. This mountain shaded fence is not properly placed, it blocks half the road. After entering a cheat and there's a box there already, your cheat activated box may never appear, making you wonder if you have already activated the cheat or not. This also makes me wonder how you guys have not clicked the like button after 20 minutes and 5 videos of this series. So do me a favor and do that. I can find 1,000 more problems, so let me know if you wanna see that in the comments. Thank you for watching and a special thank you to Olaveri Kanen, Kazenights, Shan Pasca, Hirsash, Chemonishpuri, Faith, Shinte, Bad Boy Hero, xessi, Jebediah, Redux, Versetti Gwen, Jim Francescos and everybody else.